What's going on, you guys? My name's Ty Knots, and welcome to Top 5 Unknowns, 5 scariest things to watch on Netflix. Number 5. The Ritual is a 2017 film that gives a slightly different perspective on the cliché house in the middle of the woods storyline. The story follows a group of friends who are hiking up a trail in Sweden in honor of their friend who lost his life in a convenience store fallout. The group then stumble upon an abandoned house that gives all sorts of creepy vibes. One of the main characters, Luke, then notices a wooden deer altar located nearby, which only adds to the creep factor. We can't really go into too much more detail for fear of spoiling the story, but you should really check it out for yourself. Number 4. Pain and Gain is a 2013 movie directed by Michael Bay, based on the true story of Pete Collins. The film tells the story of two bodybuilders who met at a Miami gym. Here, they devised a plan to kidnap a rich man, torture him, and force him to sign over much of what he owned. According to Pete, they poured 2 bottles of alcohol down the man's throat for 3 days, then toted him away to a car which they then doused in gasoline and set on fire. Though somewhat miraculously, as the car was ablaze, the 2 men saw the driver's door burst open and the man escape and begin running across the parking lot in an attempt to flee. The 2 men then run the guy over twice, expecting him to pass away, though he lived. The worst part is that when Pete eventually told his story to the FBI and to police, they refused to believe him, even though he had seemingly a limitless supply of evidence to back himself up. According to those involved, the movie does a relatively poor job of summing up Pete's story, though it's still a great watch. Number 3. Ed Gein was, among many other things, an American grave robber who most often stole bodies from his hometown in Wisconsin. He's most well known for taking bodies, then making keepsakes out of their bones and skin. Most of his crimes took place in the mid-1950s, though due to his decreased mental state, he was deemed unfit for trial until 1968, when he was found guilty, yet legally insane. When police initially found out about what Gein had been doing, they issued a warrant to search his home. Inside, they found tons of human bones, trash bins made from human skin, bowls made from skulls, a mask fashioned from a woman's deceased face, a lampshade made from a human face, and many, many other items. All of the keepsakes were then carefully photographed and cataloged, but then promptly burned afterward. Most of the events of Gein's life and crimes were documented in the 2007 film Ed Gein, The Butcher of Plainfield. Number 2. The Exorcism of Emily Rose is a 2005 film, largely based on the allegedly true story of Anneliese Mitchell. Anneliese was a German woman who was known to have been troubled with mental illness for much of her life. When she was just 16, she experienced a seizure that caused massive brain damage, which ultimately resulted in her becoming schizophrenic by the age of 20. Throughout her early 20s, she was treated as an inpatient at a mental hospital, though there was very little they could do at the time to help her. Keep in mind, this was back in the 60s when mental illness was still a fairly new topic of research. Over the years, Anna's family became convinced that rather than having a mental illness, she must have been possessed by the devil. So they pulled all the strings they could and were eventually allowed to perform a Catholic exorcism on her. Immediately following this treatment, Anna passed away from starvation, and her family as well as the priests involved were charged for negligence that resulted in her passing away. Number 1. The 1993 drama Alive was based on the true story of Air Force Flight 571, which is carrying 45 passengers, including members of a rugby team as well as family and friends. The plane was coasting over the Andes Mountains on October 13, 1972, when it unexpectedly crashed, taking the lives of many of the passengers on board. Soon after the crash, another handful of people passed away due to the extreme weather conditions, leaving just 27 passengers remaining. Though just a few days later still, another 8 passed away from an avalanche, leaving just 16 by the time the crew members were able to locate and rescue survivors. When they were finally found, they'd spent some 72 days in the Andes Mountains, with almost no food, water, or heat. It was then determined that they'd stayed alive by eating the bodies of those who'd passed away. They allegedly cut the bodies into small strips, let the sun dry them out, then would literally eat every part of the body that was believed to have been edible. What's even worse is that all of the search parties for the passengers had been called off after only a week of searching. In fact, had it not been been for two brave souls who ventured into the cold, snowy terrain in search of help, the remaining members would have likely never been found. The two wanderers traveled countless miles before eventually encountering a man named Sergio, who they then befriended. Sergio then fed the men and informed the authorities where the other passengers were located, with them being rescued soon after. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to click that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep updated with our videos.